Is it a small thing for you to weary man? But will ye weary my God also? Therefore the Lord himself shall give you a sign. Behold, a virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and thou shalt call his name Emmanuel, which means God is with us.
They cannot even exist, for example. The Son could not exist without the Father.
There's no way I can convince you.
So, no, it's not about convincing me.
We have to beg to differ.
It's about whether you realize what you believe in is not the truth. Because the truth would be...
Jesus was perfect.
Is Jesus perfect?
The only perfect man. Yes.
Is he perfect God?
Perfect man, perfect God, yes.
He cannot be perfect God because he's dependent.
Yes.
Independent of the Father.
Well, he was with God. He was always with God.
So the answer is what? Independent or not?
No. They were
so he's dependent
on each other. They belong. They're part and parcel of God.
So he was dependent on the Father.
Yes.
Do you know anyone who's dependent cannot be God in any way, shape, or form?
Well,
God is the only being who is absolutely independent. Any being who's seen to be dependent cannot be
God. Where do you get that? From the Quran?
Okay. It's not about Quran. Our human intellect, our rationality, our reason tells us anything that is dependent on something else, whatever they're dependent on, without that they cannot even exist, for example. The Son could not exist without the Father.
There's no way I can convince you.
So, no, it's not about convincing me.
We have to beg to differ.
It's about whether you realize what you believe in is not the truth, because the truth would be in accordance with sense. Your belief must make sense. When you realize the Son of God is not independent of the Father, then he cannot be God, because God has to be independent. It has to be, by necessity. By necessity, God has to be absolute. By necessity, God has to be perfect. Any being who is dependent is imperfect.
Jesus was perfect.
Is Jesus perfect?
The only perfect man. Yes.
Is he perfect God?
Perfect man, perfect God, yes.
He cannot be perfect God because he's dependent. He is not.
Okay. It was one. He that has not seen me has seen.
Is the
he
Son
that
of
has
God?
seen me has seen the Father.
Okay.
That's what Jesus said.
Let's test it. Is the Son of God self-sufficient? That he doesn't need the Father or the Holy Spirit for him to exist? Is he self-sufficient?
I'm not a theologian.
But the answer is he's not. What? Because the Bible and your church fathers tells you Jesus Christ, or the second member of the Trinity, the second person of the Trinity, is not self-sufficient.
No, he was always dependent on God.
Exactly. Then he's
everything he wanted to do as a human being.
Thank you. And he's always not God. Never can be God.
But then he's sitting at the right hand of God.
Look.
He's praying for you and me.
If he is not God, then it is really not sensible for people to worship him along with God.
He is God. He's part and parcel. God in three persons.
He cannot be God because he's not perfect and self-sufficient.
I think that's the end. He was.
Do you not agree that he's not self-sufficient?
He was dependent on. He was one with the Father.
If he's dependent, he's not God. How difficult is it? Why is it difficult for you to understand?
It's not going to work.
Do you accept? Okay.
We have to beg to differ.
Can there be any greater being than God? There cannot be. Can there be any greater being than Jesus?
I'm no use to this.
Do you agree? Can there be anyone greater than Jesus? Can there be anyone greater than Jesus?
It's going to keep going.
Thank you.
You cannot have anyone greater than God.